At 4:52 a.m. local time, the most important aircraft in the United States Air Force were not in the air. They were on the ground, parked in a row on the eastern apron of Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates. 4 E-3 Sentry airborne warning and control system aircraft sat under the dim glow of taxiway lights, their massive 30-foot rotating radar domes motionless, their engines cold, their crews asleep in nearby barracks. Maintenance schedules had grounded all 4 aircraft simultaneously for the first time in this conflict. 2 were undergoing routine radar calibration, 1 was receiving an engine replacement, 1 was being fitted with an upgraded electronic countermeasure suite for approximately 6 hours between midnight and 6 a.m. None of the 4 E-3 Sentries assigned to the Middle Eastern theater would be operational. That 6-hour window was supposed to be covered by ground-based radar systems and by a single E-7A Wedgetail operating from a base in Saudi Arabia. It was supposed to be a manageable risk. It was supposed to be temporary. It was supposed to be secret. Iran knew. At 4:52 a.m., 12 Sh-3 ballistic missiles launched from mobile platforms in southeastern Iran crossed 1,200 kilometers of airspace in approximately 7 minutes and struck Al-Dhafra Air Base. 3 of those missiles hit the eastern apron. The 4 E-3 Sentry aircraft, each one worth approximately $270 million, each one carrying radar systems capable of tracking every aircraft within a 400 kilometers radius, each one serving as the central nervous system of American air superiority in the Middle East, were destroyed on the ground. Not shut down in combat, not lost to mechanical failure, destroyed while parked, while powered down, while defenseless. The eyes of the United States Air Force in the Middle East are gone, and the blindness that follows is already being felt across every front of this war. Let me tell you what the E-3 Sentry is, because most people have never heard of this aircraft and have no idea why its loss is more devastating than the destruction of any fighter jet, any bomber, or any drone in the American arsenal. The E-3 Sentry is a modified Boeing 707 commercial aircraft fitted with a Westinghouse AANA-P1 or AAA-P2 radar system housed in the distinctive rotating dome mounted above the fuselage. That radar can detect, identify, and track airborne targets at ranges exceeding 400 kilometers. It can simultaneously monitor more than 600 aircraft, distinguishing between friendly, hostile, and unknown contacts in real time. It can detect low-flying cruise missiles and drones that ground-based radar systems cannot see because of terrain interference. It provides the complete air picture, the comprehensive view of everything flying within hundreds of kilometers that every other aircraft in the American military depends on to operate safely and effectively. But the E-3 does more than see, it commands. The aircraft carries a crew of approximately 19 to 34 mission specialists, depending on the configuration. These specialists manage air battle operations in real time from consoles inside the aircraft. They direct fighter aircraft to intercept incoming threats. They coordinate strike packages, ensuring that bombers and fighters arrive at their targets at the right time and from the right direction. They manage aerial refueling operations, connecting thirsty fighters with tanker aircraft at precise coordinates and altitudes. They deconflict airspace, preventing friendly aircraft from shooting each other or colliding in the crowded skies over a combat zone. Without the E-3, American pilots do not know what is around them beyond the range of their own aircraft's radar. Without the E-3, fighter controllers cannot see incoming Iranian missiles or drones until they are much closer and much harder to intercept. Without the E-3, the carefully orchestrated air campaign that has been striking Iranian targets becomes a series of disconnected individual missions, each operating with limited awareness of what is happening beyond its immediate vicinity. The E-3 Sentry does not drop bombs, it does not fire missiles, but without it the aircraft that do drop bombs and fire missiles become dramatically less effective and dramatically more vulnerable. Let me walk you through the attack, because the precision with which Iran struck these 4 aircraft reveals intelligence penetration that should alarm every American military commander in the region. Alda Air Base is one of the most heavily defended installations in the Middle East. It hosts American F-35 and F-22 stealth fighters, KC-135 tanker aircraft, RQ-4 Global Hawk surveillance drones, and the 4 E-3 Sentries that were destroyed. The base is protected by Patriot PAC-3 batteries and a THAAD system positioned specifically to defend against Iranian ballistic missile threats. The base's perimeter is monitored by multiple sensor systems. Its airspace is restricted and continuously surveilled. Iran launched 12 Shahab-3 missiles in a single coordinated salvo. The Shahab-3 is not Iran's most advanced missile. It is a medium-range ballistic missile with a range of approximately 300 kilometers and a conventional warhead weighing approximately 750 kilograms. Its guidance system provides accuracy within approximately 30 to 50 m of the intended target. What the Shahab-3 lacks in precision compared to newer Iranian missiles like the KBR-Sheshan, it compensates for in availability. Iran has hundreds of them. They can be launched in large salvos designed to saturate defenses through volume rather than sophistication. The 12 missiles arrived at Dhafra in a compressed window of approximately 40 seconds. The base's Patriot batteries engaged immediately. They interceptors launched against the highest altitude threats. In total, 9 of the 12 missiles were intercepted, a 75% success rate. Under normal circumstances, that would be considered an acceptable defensive performance. But 3 missiles got through, and the 3 that got through hit the one part of the base that mattered most. 2 missiles struck the eastern apron directly, their warheads detonating among the parked E-3 aircraft. The first impact hit between the second and third aircraft in the row, the blast and fragmentation destroying both aircraft simultaneously. The fuselages were torn open, the radar domes collapsed, fuel from ruptured wing tanks ignited, creating fires that burned for more than 3 hours. The second missile struck approximately 60 m from the first aircraft in the row, close enough for the blast wave and fragmentation to cause catastrophic structural damage. The aircraft's left wing separated from the fuselage, the rotating radar dome mechanism was shattered. The third missile that penetrated struck the base's aircraft maintenance facility, a large hangar approximately 200 meters from the apron where the 4th E-3 was undergoing engine replacement. The hangar partially collapsed. The E-3 inside was crushed under falling structural steel and concrete. All 4 E-3 Sentries were destroyed. 4 aircraft, approximately $1.08 billion in airframes and mission systems, gone in 40 seconds. Let me give you the casualty numbers. Because American service members died protecting aircraft that their own leadership chose to leave vulnerable, 9 American airmen were killed, 14 were wounded, 6 critically. The dead include 4 aircraft maintenance technicians who were working on the E-3 in the hangar when it collapsed, 2 security forces personnel who were patrolling the apron perimeter, and 3 munitions specialists who were in an adjacent storage facility that caught fire from the explosion. 34-year-old Master Sergeant Daniel Whitford was one of the maintenance technicians. He had served 14 years in the Air Force. He was 3 months from retirement. He was working a night shift in a hangar because the maintenance schedule required the E-3 to be operational by morning. He died under a collapsed roof because 4 aircraft that should never have been grounded simultaneously were grounded simultaneously and parked in a row like targets in a shooting gallery. Now let me explain the intelligence failure, because the question of how Iran knew about the maintenance window is as important as the attack itself. The simultaneous grounding of all 4 E-3 Sentries was an operational decision made at the wing commander level approximately 48 hours before the attack. The decision was classified. It was communicated through secure military channels. The maintenance schedule was distributed only to personnel with direct involvement in the work. The window was considered low risk because the aircraft would be operational again within 6 hours. Someone leaked that information to Iran. The alternative explanation that Iran launched 12 missiles at exactly the right moment by coincidence, targeting the exact section of the base where the E-3s were parked during the exact window when all 4 were grounded, is statistically impossible. Iran had intelligence, specific intelligence, real-time intelligence, and it came from someone with access to classified American operational schedules at Dhafra Air Base. The counterintelligence investigation that will follow this attack may prove to be as consequential as the attack itself, because if Iran has a human source inside an American airbase, the implications extend far beyond 4 destroyed aircraft. Every operational plan, every flight schedule, every weapons load, every defensive posture at every American base in the Gulf is potentially compromised. Let me explain what happens to American air operations now, because the loss of all 4 E-3 Sentries creates an operational crisis that cannot be quickly resolved. The United States Air Force operates a total fleet of approximately 31 E-3 Sentry aircraft worldwide. That number has been declining for years as aircraft age and maintenance costs increase. Several are permanently grounded for maintenance or parts cannibalization. The operationally available fleet is estimated at approximately 20 to 22 aircraft. Those aircraft are distributed across 3 operational theaters: Europe, the Pacific, and the Middle East. Each theater maintains a minimum deployment to cover its assigned mission. Transferring E-3 aircraft from Europe means reducing NATO air surveillance at a time when Russia is conducting an active war in Ukraine. Transferring from the Pacific means reducing coverage in a theater where China is conducting increasingly aggressive air and naval operations near Taiwan. Every aircraft move to replace the losses in the Middle East creates a gap somewhere else, a gap that adversaries will notice and potentially exploit. The Air Force has announced that 2 E-3 Sentries will be redeployed from Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma to the Middle East within 72 hours. 2 aircraft to replace 4, and those 2 aircraft will need time to integrate with theater operations, calibrate their systems to regional conditions, and establish the crew rotations necessary for sustained operations. Full replacement of the lost capability will take weeks. During those weeks, American air operations in the Middle East will operate with severely degraded situational awareness. Pilots will fly strike missions without the comprehensive air picture that the E-3 provides. Fighter controllers will rely on ground-based radars with limited range and significant blind spots caused by terrain and the curvature of the Earth. Aerial refueling coordination will be less sufficient, potentially forcing aircraft to abort missions or land at alternate bases when they cannot locate tankers. And most critically, the early warning of incoming Iranian missiles and drones that the E-3 provided to ground-based air defense systems will be dramatically reduced. The E-3 could detect a cruise missile or drone at ranges where ground radar could not. That detection gave the Patriot and the AAD batteries precious additional seconds to engage incoming threats. Those seconds are now gone. The bases are not just missing their eyes, they are missing the warning time that keeps them alive. Let me connect this to the replacement crisis that the Air Force was already facing before this attack, because the timing could not be worse. The E-3 Sentry fleet was already scheduled for retirement beginning in 2027. Its replacement, the E-7A Wedgetail, a Boeing 737 base platform with the newer MISA radar system, has been ordered, but production has been plagued by delays. The first operational E-7A is not expected to be delivered to the Air Force until 2028 or 2029. The loss of 4 E-3s accelerates a capability gap that the Air Force knew was coming, but planned to manage through a gradual transition. That transition just became an emergency. The Air Force now has fewer E-3s to cover its global commitments, while the peer replacement aircraft is years from being available. In the interim, the service must rely on a shrinking fleet of aging aircraft. each one more expensive to maintain, more prone to mechanical failure, and more valuable as losses mount. Every E-3 that remains in service is now more critical than it was yesterday, and more critical means more vulnerable because the demand to keep them flying reduces the time available for maintenance, which increases the risk of mechanical failure, which increases the pressure to fly them even harder. It is a vicious cycle that erodes capability even without additional enemy action. Let me tell you how the Air Force is attempting to compensate, because the gap left by 4 destroyed E-3s must be filled immediately, even if it cannot be filled completely. The primary stopgap is the E-7A wedge tail that was already operating from Saudi Arabia as a test deployment. This single aircraft is now carrying the entire airborne early warning burden for the Middle Eastern theater. One aircraft covering a theater that spans from the Eastern Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean. The E-7A's MISA radar is more capable than the E-3's older system, with greater range and better detection of low observable targets, but one aircraft cannot be airborne continuously. It needs maintenance, its crew needs rest. When it lands, the theater has no airborne early warning capability at all. The Air Force is also surging ground-based radar deployments, moving ENTPS-80 mobile radar systems to forward locations to partially compensate for the loss of airborne coverage. These systems are capable but limited. They cannot see over the horizon. They cannot detect low-flying threats masked by terrain. They cannot move with the battle the way an airborne platform can. They are a band-aid on a wound that requires surgery. Let me give you the financial impact, because the numbers reveal a pattern that has defined this entire war. 4 E-3 Sentry aircraft, total value approximately $1.08 billion. The maintenance facility destroyed approximately $45 million. The equipment, spare parts, and classified mission systems lost in the hangar collapse estimated at $60 to $80 million. The cost of emergency redeployment of replacement aircraft from the continental United States, approximately $12 million. The total financial impact of this single attack exceeds $1.2 billion. The 12 Shahab-3 missiles Iran launched cost approximately $3 million each. Total Iranian expenditure, approximately $36 million. Iran spent $36 million to inflict $1.20, $2 billion in damage, a return on investment of 33 to 1. But the operational damage, the degradation of American air superiority, the loss of early warning capability, the intelligence compromise, the strategic implications of being blind in a war zone, those costs cannot be measured in dollars. They will be measured in missions that fail, threats that are detected too late, and pilots who do not come home because they did not see what was coming. Let me explain what Iran is communicating with this attack, because the target selection reveals a strategic sophistication that goes beyond simply destroying valuable equipment. Iran did not target fighters, it did not target bombers, it did not target the aircraft that drop bombs on Iranian territory. It targeted the aircraft that allow all other aircraft to operate effectively. This is systems warfare, the understanding that modern military operations depend on interconnected systems, and that destroying one critical node degrades the entire network. Kill the eyes and the fists become useless, blind the radar and the fighters cannot find their targets, disable the command aircraft and the air campaign loses coordination. Iran did not need to destroy a single F-35 to degrade American air superiority. It destroyed the platform that made F-35 operations possible and achieved the same result at a fraction of the cost. Here's what I need you to understand. 4 E-3 Sentry aircraft, the airborne radar and command platforms that provided situational awareness for every American air operation in the Middle East, were destroyed on the ground at Dhafra Air Base. 9 American airmen killed, 14 wounded, $1.08 billion in aircraft destroyed. an additional $125 million in facilities and equipment lost. Iran spent $36 million. The attack exploited a 6-hour maintenance window that was classified information, revealing intelligence penetration of American operations at the base level. The Air Force has 2 replacement aircraft en route, but full capability restoration will take weeks. The replacement program for the aging E-3 fleet is years behind schedule. American pilots are now flying combat missions without the comprehensive air picture that has been the foundation of American air superiority for 4 decades. And one E-7A Wedgetail is carrying the entire Theat's airborne early warning mission alone. Mainstream media is reporting this as an attack on an airbase. They are showing you satellite images of burned aircraft and interviewing Pentagon spokespeople who emphasize that air operations will continue. They are not explaining what the E-3 Sentry actually does or why losing all 4 changes everything about how America fights this war. They are not telling you that American pilots are now flying partially blind into Iranian airspace. They are not connecting destroyed radar planes to increased risk of friendly fire, missed interceptions and failed missions. They are not explaining that the intelligence leak that enabled this attack means every American-based schedule may be compromised. They are not asking the question that every pilot preparing for tonight's missions is asking, what am I flying into that I cannot see? The story they are telling is about an airbase attack. The story I just told you is about the moment American air superiority lost its eyes and the most advanced air force in history began operating in a darkness it has not experienced since before the technology existed to prevent it. Both stories are true, but only one of them explains why every mission launched tonight carries a risk that did not exist yesterday and why the pilots flying those missions know it. Subscribe to War and Money Report. We deliver daily intelligence briefings that connect the platforms you have never heard of to the outcomes that affect everything, linking destroyed radar aircraft to degraded air campaigns, intelligence leaks to base vulnerabilities, and the loss of 4 planes on the ground to the blindness that follows every pilot into the sky. Hit the notification bell because the eyes are gone, the replacements are weeks away, and the war is not waiting.